Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Nadi. Happy birthday to you. Am I 1? Am I 2? Am I 3? Am I 4? Am I 5? Am I 6? Am I 7? Am I 8? Am I 9? Am I 10? Am I 11? Am I 12? Am I 13? Am I 14? Am I 15? Am I 16? Am I 17? Am I 18? You're welcome, Ms. Thompson.
So 2.3, it's not only Nati's birthday, but we are going to be talking about graphs today. So we're going to use the graph on the first page and answer the questions on the second. All right, so example 1a. We want to find t of 1. So the number in parentheses tells us what x value we're looking at. We need to find the corresponding y value. So when x is 1, I'm going to go up to my graph. So I'm talking about the point here. What's our y value? 25. Awesome. So t of 1 is equal to 25. T of 3, we're looking for where our x value is 3. So we're going to go to our graph at 3. We'll jump up to here. What's our y value that we're talking about? 30. Perfect. And then t of 5, we're going to go to where x is 5. So we're talking about this point on our graph. What is our y value? 20. We're going to do the same thing for b, but it says which is larger. So we have to find the value of t of 2 and t of 4. So let's go to our graph. We're going to go to where 2 is on the x value. What's our y value? Awesome. It's a little bit less than 35, so we can call it 34. It's about 34. And then t of 4, what's our y value there? At t of 4, what's our y value? 25. So which one's larger? T of 2 is larger. For C, find the values of x for which t of x is equal to 25. So this is now our y value. We want to find the x value when y is 25. So at 25 here, what x values have a y of 25? Awesome, 1 and 4. So I could say x equals 1 and 4. For D, it says find the values of x for which t of x is greater than or equal to 25. So we're talking about everything that's above 25 here. So what x values give us a y value that's greater than 25? 1, 2, 3, and 4, but everything in between what two numbers? 1 and 4. Because it could also be like 1.5 and 2.5, like the numbers in between those. So we wouldn't just say 1, 2, 3, and 4. We have to say in between 1 and 4. So we'd say from 1 to 4. Are we including 1 and 4? Yes. Yeah, because it's greater than or equal to 25. So I'd put brackets. For E, we want to find the net change in temperature from 1 to 3. So net change is slope. So we want to use our slope formula here. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So it gives us the time. These are the x values. 1 is going to be x1 and 3 is x2. Now I need to find the corresponding y values to each of them. So I want to find what y1 is and what y2 is. So at 1 o'clock, what's our y value? 25, perfect. So y1, since we're talking about 1 o'clock there, is 25. At 3 o'clock, what's our y value? 30. So y2 would be 30. So we're going to plug these in to our slope formula. So we have 30 minus 25 over x2 is 3 minus 1. So that gives us what? 5 over 2. Perfect. So that would be our net change. 5 over 2. Next, we're going to be talking about domain and range. So domain, we're talking about the x values of our graph. So when we're looking at our graph, we always go from smallest to largest. So our smaller x values are going to be on the left. So we go left to right. Our range, we talk about the y values. So we always go from smallest to largest. So for the y values, we go from the bottom to the top. So domain and range is always smallest to largest. So just like how we read a sentence going from left to right, we read a graph going from the left to right. So I start all the way at the left here. If I was a person walking along this graph, would I be walking uphill or downhill? We're walking uphill. So here we'd be increasing until we get to the tippy top. Up here, where do we go? Are we walking uphill or downhill? Downhill, so we'd be decreasing from here. So you walk along the graph going from left to right. If you're walking uphill, you'd be increasing. If you're walking downhill, you're decreasing. If it was just a flat line, so let's say it looks like this, here this would be constant. So constant is just a flat line. You're not increasing or decreasing. Now a couple notes that I want to make about increasing, decreasing, and constant is that we want to look at the x values when we're determining what intervals we're increasing, decreasing, and constant. So we're looking at the x values. And then for increasing, decreasing, and constant, it is always parentheses. So it doesn't matter if it's an open or closed circle, it's always going to be parentheses for increasing, decreasing, and constant. So in example 6, let's start by finding our domain and range. So domain, we're going to look at the x values. When we're talking about our x values from our graph, we go from smallest to largest. So I'm going to go from the left to the right. So I'm going to hover my pencil over the graph here. My pencil starts touching graph at what x value? At this x value here, we start touching graph. So what x value is that? -8. Since it's a closed circle, we'd put a bracket, -8. So my pencil is touching graph, touching graph, touching graph, touching graph, until we get to here. What x value does this have? +8? And since that's an open circle, do you think this would get a bracket or parentheses? Parentheses. Perfect. So that would be our domain. For the range, we start from the bottom and go up. So if I hover my pencil over my graph here, at what y value do we start touching graph at? So we'd start touching graph here at -6. So our range, since that's a closed circle, would be bracket, -6. So my pencil is touching graph, touching graph, touching graph, touching graph until we get to here. What y value does this have? 5. Would 5 get a bracket or parentheses? A bracket, because it's a closed circle. So now let's talk about increasing, decreasing, and constant. So these are always parentheses, and we're only looking at the x values. So if I was walking along my graph, I start at the left side, just like we read a sentence going from left to right. Are we walking uphill or downhill? Uphill. So we're increasing from here to here. Now we're only looking at the x value. So what x value is from here to here? Awesome. -8 to, we said -4? Yeah. Now increasing, decreasing, and constant is always parentheses. So then at -4, we start walking downhill. We're walking downhill until we get to here. So from what x value to what x value are we decreasing? -4 to -1, perfect. Then at -1, we start walking uphill again. We're increasing from here to here. So from this x value to this x value. So from where to where are we increasing again? -1 to 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. To 4. Now, because we're increasing again, we're going to put a union because we've got 2 parentheses. So from -1 to 4. And then from here, we start walking downhill again. So we're decreasing from here to here. So from what x value to what x value? From 4 to 8. Perfect. So I'd put a union because we've got 2 parts where we're decreasing from 4 to 8. Are we constant anywhere? We have a flat line? No, so there's none. Any questions here? So super, super important when we're talking about increasing, decreasing, and constant, it is always parentheses and always the x values. So sometimes it might help just cross off the y values so you don't even look at them. This gave you numbers. Just cross it off. You're just looking at the x values. All right, let's do it again on the next page. So starting with our domain, we start going from left to right. So if I hover my pencil over my graph here, what x value do we start touching graph at? -8, perfect. Bracket or parentheses? Parentheses, because it's an open circle. So -8. So domain is x values. We are touching graph, touching graph, touching graph until when? So this arrow is going forever to the right. So what do you think that our domain would stop at? Positive infinity, perfect. So because that arrow is pointing forever in the right direction, it goes to infinity. Now, it might help you because sometimes people will think that this is going down, so they might think negative infinity. But when you're going to the right, it's the bigger numbers. It's infinity. When you're going to the left, that's negative infinity. So if you want to label your graph before you start, that could help. Now let's talk about the y values. If we start at the bottom, where does our graph start? Negative infinity, perfect. This is pointing down forever. So if I were to continue this line, it's going down forever to negative infinity. So our graph starts at negative infinity. We are touching graph, touching graph, touching graph, touching graph until when? Till what y value? Perfect, 5. Bracket or parentheses? Parentheses, because it's an open circle here. All right, so now increasing, decreasing, and constant are always what? Parentheses and x values, perfect. So start at the left side of the graph. Are we walking uphill or downhill? Downhill, so we're decreasing from here to here. So from what x value to what x value? Perfect, so we're decreasing from -8 to -2. Then we start walking uphill from what x value to what x value? From -2 to positive, what x value? 1. Perfect. So we're increasing from -2 to positive 1. What are we doing from 1 to 4? For flat, what does that mean? constant. So we're constant from 1 to 4. And then from 4 to what? Are we decreasing? We're going downhill from 4 to where? 4 to infinity. We are decreasing from 4 to infinity. Now it's going to the right. It's going in the right direction. We're talking about the x values. A common mistake that people make here is that they'd say negative infinity because it's going down. But it's going to the right, and since we're talking about x values, it's positive infinity. Good here? Let's find f of -6 now. So this is our x value that we're looking at. So we're going to go to -6 on the x-axis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Go to where our graph is, so it'd be this point here. What's our y value when x is -6? 2. Perfect. Let's do the same thing for f of 5. So we're going to go to when x is 5. Jump to our graph. What's our y value? 2. Any questions there? Awesome. Let's do the next one. So for domain, we start from left to right. So where do I start touching graph at? 10. Perfect. The x value for -10. So domain is the x values. So we start at -10. I'm touching graph until here. Then I've got a gap in my graph. So until what x value? Yeah, -5. Perfect. That is a closed circle, so it'd get a bracket. Then we've got a gap in our domain. We got to jump to the next one. Where does our graph start again? -3. Bracket or parentheses? Bracket, -3. Then we're touching graph until when? Until 5. Perfect. Bracket or parentheses? Parentheses, because it's an open circle. We've got another gap in our graph, so we start touching graph again where? 7. Bracket or parentheses? Bracket. 7 until when? Infinity. Parentheses. Now let's do the same thing with our range. So we start down low. Where do we start touching graph at? -4. So it would be bracket -4. It's only a parentheses if it is a defined hole. But our graph touches at -4, so it gets a bracket. Then we're touching graph, even though I've got a gap here. I'm still touching graph on this side. So I'm still touching graph. I do have a gap here, but I'm still touching graph on this side here. So we're touching graph until when? When do we stop touching graph? Until 8. Awesome. Bracket or parentheses? Parentheses, because it's an open circle at 8. So it does look like they're separate pieces, but because we're still touching graph here, it's included in our domain. We don't need to separate it. We're still touching graph here, still included in our domain. So we stop touching graph once we get to here. All right, increasing, decreasing, and constant are always what? Always the x values, and it is always parentheses. So if I start at the left side of my graph, are we walking uphill or downhill? Downhill, so we're decreasing from what x value to what x value? -10 to -5. So we're decreasing from -10 to -5. And then we jump to here. Are we walking uphill or downhill here? We're still walking downhill, so we're still decreasing from what x value to what x value? So from -3 to 0, perfect. Then at 0, what happens? We're increasing. We start walking uphill from 0 to what x value? To 5. Awesome. So we are increasing from 0 to 5. Then we're going to jump to the next part of our graph. So what's happening at 7? Increasing, decreasing, or constant? Constant. So we're constant from 7 to what? Infinity, because it's pointing forever to the right. So it's just constant forever this way. Good with those three? All right, let's do the last three now. So f of -9. This is talking about the x value. So when our x is -9, we're going to jump to our graph here. What's our y? 7. Then when x is 0, so we're going to go to where x is 0, jump to our graph. What's our y? -4. And then when x is 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4, jump to where our graph is. What's our y? 2. Awesome.